All right, welcome to the NBA Fantasy Life feed. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm your host, John Laghezza, writer and analyst at NBA Fantasy Life, and we are here for the second season, right? Fantasy's over. Well, when the fantasy gods close a door, they open a window, and sometimes your best friends sneak in through those windows. I'm here with our good friend and yours, the coach, Clemons.
Hey,
He's here. Hey, Coach, how are you, man? Happy New Year, brother.
I'm good. I just thought it was funny. Like when God closes one door, it opens a window, and your good friend sneaks in. I did not sneak in the window, ladies and gentlemen. I kicked in the front door because we are here. We're here for all the playoffs. And if you thought that fantasy was over, then you got another thing coming. We are hot off the presses with this one. I'm really excited about getting into this draft, and we're literally like a minute away. So it's awesome.
Yeah, and I have a tremendous Cheshire Cat smile on my face because you need a pretty big window to sneak me in, man.
Right,
pretty good,
me too.
You need a good ladder.
Me too. You better have a strong ladder and a pretty wide window.
There we go. I love it. All right, we are 90 seconds out, so we're going to be doing a playoff draft just really quick. A lot of times these come down to format. So it's 6 drafters, 10 rounds. We have 5 starters. So that's 1 QB, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver / tight end. We call it a pass catcher. So 2 pass catchers and then 1 flex, which leaves you 5 in the bench gene. So the first thing you're always thinking about is how you could play with the bye weeks. And I think they're part of it. So I guess take us away on that. I think that's usually the very first question I get. How do you deal with the teams on the bye? And knowing that you could stash in this league, do you think it's wheels up on the Seahawks and the Broncos?
Yeah, I think you have to be thinking about how you get those elite level players from the Seahawks and the Broncos on your team while also understanding like the mission, which is to win every week, right? So like to win this thing and put yourself in the best position to be successful, like you need to think about next week and not just this week. Much different than, maybe some other formats, that we like to do, and especially that you'll probably see a lot over at Fantasy Life, which is our Guillotinis, right? Like much different than that. You're going to really want to make sure that you don't leave any meat on the bone from those bye week teams, because those are the guys that are most likely going to help you win your championship in these formats.
Yeah, moving from format to format, first and foremost, is always kind of read those rules. Because exactly what you're circling around, Coach, is exactly that. Knowing how to take advantage of the scoring systems and advancement and really how to get to the end. I think for me, the thing I struggle with a little bit is in playoff formats, you really need to be declarative. You need to take a stand and kind of stick with teams. You're on the clock first. We're going to see where you're going because every single pick plants a flag.
Everybody knows where I'm going. Come on now. I'm going Puka. Like it's just way too much. It's way too much like emphasis on getting him the ball early and often. We don't know how healthy Devontae Adams will be. They're going to lean on Puka. To me, it's like a no-brainer. I thought about Christian McCaffrey. I really did. And I went, you know what? I'm going to go with the PPR king. That's Puka Nacua.
Yeah, and I think also the only team with more than a 4-point spread, I saw 9.5 points on the board for the first round. So everyone's pretty much expecting the Rams to handle their business against a Panthers team. They're really kind of backed in. The Bryce Young stuff is a nice story, and I think maybe he gets rigged a little more than he should. But the Rams really feel like the best team. I think you made the right pick. I was going to say, it depends if and how you're going to tackle the stacking availability. Matthew Stafford went off the board second, so you won't be getting him, but that doesn't mean you can't pivot another way. You already need to have those wheels turning. Maybe looking to pair with another AFC team that you think could go the distance. Of course, the Rams also have other weapons, but with only 10 rounds, you really do have to be selective.
Yeah, and just watching the names pop off already, right? CMC dropping the number 3 in here. Jackson Smith and Jigba going 4th overall. That's a bye week guy. So whoever takes him number 1 overall, you got to know that you've now taken with your first overall pick a guy who can't help you get it done this week, right? Like, so that's something that people really need to consider when they're looking at how they want to navigate these things. If you can make it through the week and you feel good about like being able to get the job done this week, it's going to set you up in a much better position, in the second week of this thing. But that remains to be seen.
All right, there goes that third critical Rand, Devontae Adams with the board. I'm on the other turn. That worked out nicely.
Yeah.
So I think I've done quite a few of these. I've been unfortunate enough to not run into this 1-2 stack. So I'm gonna go with the Bills. I'm gonna go with the two main pieces of the Bills that matter, and that's Josh Allen, and I'm gonna back it up with Mr. James Cook. I don't think the Bills can make a run without a significant contribution from both of these guys. And I think having that pair allows me an extra freedom where you have a big NFC piece you're looking for AFC counterparts or complements, I guess. I'm going to go the other way. I have a pretty solid AFC trunk lined up. I'm going to look to build maybe with a less popular NFC team. Now, Coach kind of... Oh, dropped off. I see you there. Go ahead.
No, I'm good. I was listening, and I was like the ability to stack Allen and James together, right? Like James Cook together, to me sets you up that if the Bills are in fact going to make a Super Bowl run, and this year being so wide open, they could 1,000% do it, right? If they just get things clicking, like you said, it won't happen without those two. And then you know that you're going to be sitting with possibly QB1, RB1 every single week. That's a great stack to fall into your lap like that.
Yeah, I'm always trying to think downrange. A lot of times when I have the wheel, I've done the same thing with a Drake May and Travion Henderson, right? We think they could make a deep run. They just had a fantastic season. And again, the offense kind of runs through them. New England is an interesting case. I mentioned before, we only need one running back. They're a team that I might consider two running backs on that team. You're up for a back-to-back, and I'm kind of waiting with bated breath to see what direction you go in, Coach. I don't know if you'd like to speak while you're picking. Go ahead.
I don't mind speaking while I'm picking, but I'll tell you, I think that people are sleeping on Jalen Hurts and what he does in the playoffs. And so I really like the opportunity to take him. And then I know a lot of people are heavy on Ramondre Stevenson for the playoffs, but I feel like the playoffs is where you could really see a guy like Travion Henderson get unleashed. And so I'm going to roll with Jalen Hurts and Travion Henderson on my stack. So now I've got a little something on the AFC side. I've got something on the NFC side as well.
Man, I didn't even realize the guy in the 2-0 went with back-to-back quarterbacks. I guess looking for the best one. You're going to have to know who to start. I guess he really likes Stafford week 1 to light it up, and then maybe looking to pivot to May down the stretch.
Or maybe it's a strategy to block people from getting a good quarterback.
Yeah, or building those stacks that we were talking about.
Like the fact that it's best ball allows him to say, okay, I've got two high quality guys. Whichever guy balls out this week, I'm good, right?
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I mentioned the roster decision, and you called me because I forgot, right? It's a best ball format. Yeah. I think it's a little bit early for a 2 QB strategy for me, but who knows? These are the best players, and they score a ton.
That's the point. Is like it's not my strategy. It's not what I wanted to do. But if you feel confident in your abilities to move on, after week 1, all bets are off, right? Not even move on, but, have success in week 1. After that, all bets are off because now all of the players are on the board. So you just can't kill yourself, early on. And then from there, you're kind of good to go. So it allows you to not only get a higher quality number 2 quarterback, but it blocks somebody else from getting a high quality, quarterback as their number 1. So now you might have somebody that has to drop down. Someone's going to end up with Bryce Young, right? And then you're going to have to hope that Bryce Young has one of those Bryce Youngian type of days where you go, man, that's why he's the number 1 overall pick. But if he has one of those ho-hum days, then you're probably going home.
Yeah, you probably sent that second drafter into a tizzy. After he went May, he might have been looking to construct the rest of whatever Rams and Patriots stack he could muster. And when you took Travion, maybe he figured too early for Ramondre, though there might be an argument for that. I'm up now, and I'm going to pivot again. I have a little bit of experience in these drafting streets. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to pivot and do something a little off the rails. And I'm going to look to bring the Bears all the way home with that Bills stack. But because the Bills kind of fall off after those top two players, I'm going to look to see if I can get the Bears with the Bills and maybe another kind of smaller AFC stack. So now it looks a little bit unorthodox. So my first two picks are QB, QB, RB, RB. But you see how they're paired, and they give me the ability to go other directions with the pass catcher. So now I've got Allen and Cook, and now I've paired DeAndre Swift with Caleb Williams. They're on opposite sides of the bracket. They're both going to be playing in the first round. I mean, all these games are kind of close, Coach, so I don't know who's going to get home. But they could meet up at the end also. I'm going to try and set myself up. If Buffalo and Chicago both make deep runs, I could be towards the overall leaderboard, which is how I generally approach these contests.
Yeah, and it's a great philosophy. I'm looking to, like, with the quarterback, I can tell you, for me, I'm looking to take the quarterback that I believe has a chance to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Or at the very least be in the game. Right. And so I went Jalen Hurts because it's not the sexiest of all the quarterbacks, but we know what his floor is, especially in the playoffs where they're getting healthy, and he's definitely going to probably be running now. Like, you could see him, come back that way. But then I also think that because of that, that prowess, you have to look at him and go, if he gets to the Super Bowl, we know what he does in the Super Bowl, right? Like, we know what he brings to the table there. So I liked it from there. Here, though, I'm going to do something that I was hoping happened, right? I was hoping this happened. I'm going to draft Ramondre Stevenson. And I'm going to essentially hitch my wagon to the New England Patriots backfield and go, one of those two guys are going to give me the performance that I need. And with all the people going quarterback, it makes it feel like I should go quarterback and get a second one. But, like, I can't deny some of these talents that are out here to be had. And again, I want a Devontae Smith on my team, because he might not be the highest level of wide receiver out there, but if I believe that that he's getting home, if I believe that Jalen Hurts is getting home, I need somebody to come with him, right? I need someone to come with him, so I'm going Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I've mentioned stacking a few times. Even though mine may be a bit up more unorthodox, QB to running back, you really nailed it. Again, you have game-winning experience and strategic experience. This is it kind of playing out. If you believe your quarterback is going all the way, you really want to tie him to a pass catcher that's going to get home with him. That's really the point, because this game is about picking the winners. When we get to the very end, you can only have one or two correct answers. That's pretty much it when it comes to quarterback. There are only two correct answers when we get to the very end. And I don't want to speak definitively because, these things are highly variant, could go a different way. You really want to have a full roster come the Super Bowl. And I would imagine all the past winners have had just that. Man, so I'm looking at my queue right now, and I think I'm just going to keep leaning into it, because the other side of my Bears hit. Okay, so I'm going to solidify all my Bears. So I'm all in on the Chicago Bears. We've seen them really turn it up. I did a bit of writing on Caleb Williams, and I think that mind meld with him and Ben Johnson is finally starting to happen. He increased his EPA per dropback like 7 weeks in a row as they start winning games. I know some of them were a little bit back heavy, but, Coach, and I think you'll attest to this, we'll all take the heroic 45-yard walk-off touchdown. You know what I mean? Like, these are things that we like. And yes, the game watcher sometimes will tell you, he didn't do anything through 3.5 quarters. Well, if he gets there with 3-25-3 at the end of the day with a W in the win column, especially in this format, we're going to take it. So I'm going to hitch to the trajectory of the Bears. They have, again, that a lot of things checking the boxes. They brought back some pieces on defense. Run defense may be a bit sketchy, could hurt you against Jacobs, but that's why all these games have such close spreads. So I'm all in on the Bears, and now you're going to see me construct a parallel strategy to meet the Bears. I already have one nice branch of the trunk, on the tree, Allen and Cook, and I'm going to see what else I could put together to try and keep up with your Puka Nacua stuff. And on the Eagles, if they get to the end, going to be very dangerous on the NFC side, Coach.
Yeah, and that's really what you're trying. You're just trying to make you're trying to figure out a way to make things difficult on everyone else out there early,
Yep.
while also giving yourself a path to the championship with multiple players in place, especially players that are going to be, high point, high leverage guys, right? And so, the unfortunate part is you can't really rely on any Buffalo guys, but
Yep.
Jacoby Myers has been playing really good football and for Jacksonville. And so I look at him as a guy I want to bring in as a receiver. And then I'm going to go a little bit wild, because I think this is a play that you make because you're trying to win early and set yourself up to be in a good position to go forward. I'm going to go Ted McMillan right here. And I think that you let a guy come in like this, because regardless of the outcome, of how the game script goes out, right? You're going to have to throw to him if you want to win the game, and if you're losing the game, you're going to have to throw to him in order to try to get yourself back in the game. And so I can see a lot of targets for Ted McMillan. If he's able to get into the end zone, it makes the day even better. We know that the Rams, while they're front, you know, their front four, their front five, however you want to look at their defense, is really good, really formidable. They can be had in the secondary. We've seen teams be able to throw the ball on the Rams. Heck, we just saw it last week. With Arizona being able to get the ball off on the Rams deep and take advantage of that. I think Ted McMillan has an opportunity to have one of those types of games that makes you remember him as a rookie.
Yeah, you and I kind of did a non-scripted kind of counterbalanced strategy, right? I'm more leaning into this all-in team structure thing. And what's the fail point? The fail point for my strategy is your strategy, which is you're taking really good players. You're taking really good players that could blow up the scoreboard. Yes, I mentioned the Panthers. They're heavy underdogs. Ted McMillan most likely will only see one game.
Most likely.
But he could have a huge blow-up game, and the teams waiting for everybody are the Seahawks and the Broncos. These are great defenses. The second round might have these games might get posted as 35-point team total. So I love that. It kind of kills me because it makes me see the flaw. Now you mentioned the lack of reliability in the pass catching room for Buffalo. Now I do think that's true. The one guy I do like, I'm drafting first, is Khalil Shakir, and I think especially when Buffalo falls behind and Allen kind of sees a lot of zone stuff, he'll go to his reliable target underneath. Man, I also like Kincaid. I don't have him keyed up right here. I'm leaning into people drafting by ADP. He's not near the top of the list. He's a little bit unreliable. I know we had the drop in the big spot. I try not to punish guys for that. But I want to go the other route. So I mentioned I have a heavy bear stack. Who else could get there? I know they're playing each other, but I want impact players. So I actually have Ladd McConkey queued up next. Again, right now I'm just kind of looking for anybody that could meet the Bears, right? So right now I'm guy of Chicago going all the way. If the Bears meet the Chargers, it'll be nice to have McConkey as a bringback as I try and keep up with all your big scores.
Yeah, and I think having people available in that second round to be able to counterbalance, even if you don't think they're going to be the best, as you go along, having people to counterbalance is going to be important. I'm going to be in a situation going forward where I know I need to add running back depth, and it's going to become, or running backs to my bench, but it's going to become, well, where do I go and how do I prioritize them? Right? Kenneth Gainwell is a really sexy guy to have out there, but there's a good chance Kenneth Gainwell is only playing one game, right? So if you believe in Kenneth Gainwell, do you go Kenneth Gainwell and just say, you know what, I'm gonna take the points now? Or are you looking at a Kyle Manon guy and going, you know what? Yeah, he's not the number one guy, but if I think Chicago has a run in them, then that might be a way to go. So there's going to be some real like decisions to be made, because we're getting into the place where everybody's not a starter.
Anybody that's on the Bears bandwagon with me has found themselves on exactly that fence at the end of these drafts with Kyle Monangai because not only have the Bears shown split work, Monongai's looked really good, and Ben Johnson is very good at utilizing two backs. We've seen, again, this would be another fail point with the Bears specifically, which is also why they're available late enough for me to build one of these stacks. It's because we don't always know where the ball is going. One place it has gone is to the backfield, but then even that path has a fork in the road. It's been really tough. Did you see me writhing in pain? It's because you took Omarion Hampton, another really explosive guy who would have fit my build with McConkey. He was at the top of my queue, but you got to do what you do, Mr. Clemons.
Yeah, and the reason is that he might not be totally healthy right now, right? But if the Chargers find a way to get out of that first round, now another week of him hopefully getting back to 100%, he becomes even more valuable when you get into the divisional round than he was when we were talking about the wild card. And then I just went back and grabbed Kenneth Gainwell because I really and truly believe Kenneth Gainwell is one of those guys that could just go out here and get beat, but give you 28, 30 points in fantasy, and you're going to be like, well, gosh, why didn't I just try to have him on my team, right? So I went for some guys and maybe even to a lesser extent a way to block some other dudes from being able to stack their squad against me by adding these pieces here to go along with what I've got. I know I needed some variance from Henderson and Stevenson, so that was my thought process.
Oh, as I was thinking about how much I did want to draft Kyle Monongai, he just went off the board. And if you can't tell, yeah, it's been a minute since I've done any live hosting. Our awesome producer behind there, let me know why wasn't Dalton Kincaid at the top of the queue, because he had just gotten drafted. Not that it would have mattered. I was already locked in on the Bills. So now without Monongai, I think the last meaningful piece for the Bears would be Rome Odunze. You can't have everybody. I think I'm going to fade DJ Moore. And I really like DJ Moore. I would love your thoughts. Maybe in the offseason we could talk about him. I actually think he's a really good player that maybe is not a great fit here. But I don't want to give up on him totally. But maybe this postseason may not be for him. I'm looking for one more touchdown scorer on the AFC side. And things are bad when you're looking at tight ends. But if Houston's going to be any good and they make a run, maybe Dalton Schultz scored 4 or 5 touchdowns during this playoff run. I'm going to go with Schultz to make a run with Houston to meet me, with the Bears in the Super Bowl. So I'm wrapped up. I'm all Bears with a touch of a heavy Bills trunk to hopefully get me through that first round and keep up with you. And then Ladd McConkey and Dalton Schultz offshoots as bringbacks in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and a great way to roll. Excuse me, great way to roll there. I think that what's going to come down to is how do we get past the wild card round? Like, where is people sitting at the end of the wild card round? I was rolling the dice and hoping that things would fall a certain way for me, and I won't say anything until that little buzzer goes off and tells me that it's gonna go the way I want it to go. And I was like, who can I stack Jalen Hurts with that if they make a run, I could have both of them available to me, in the Super Bowl, or at the very least, I've got a quarterback that's ascending all the way, and that's Justin Herbert. Like if the Chargers get their things rolling, I can have a Herbert, a Justin Herbert, a Marion Hampton stack to kind of roll together. I've got a Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith stack to roll together. I've got a Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson stack to roll together. I was able to get a couple guys to roll together, and then I just went and got some really good pieces to try to help me win for as long as they can help me win.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff is, of course, subjective, but I think in your position, I think you made the objectively correct decision. You need another quarterback. You have one NFC powerhouse. I think you should look to complement with an AFC team, which you did, and you paired it with a big piece. The Hampton stuff, it's funny that you mentioned that, Coach, because none of us know because we're not in these training rooms, we're not in these meeting rooms. You had mentioned to me earlier today, about Philadelphia manufacturing a bye week. And when teams do that and get these guys that true rest, I like to think that they're going to be pretty close. I love Hampton going into these playoffs. I like a lot of the underdogs going into these playoffs. I think the Chargers could easily win. I know the May stands hate to hear it. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars defense is a very good unit, and a lot of teams have stymied Buffalo this season, and they could win. There's a lot of that this year. Even my Bears, which I mentioned, could easily lose to. Again, if you're buying into what I was selling about teams maybe being healthy after resting, Jordan Love and the Packers are really, really good. Losing Parsons definitely hurts, and I think I'd probably like him a bit more, especially against that Bears run attack that I mentioned. But again, we're going to see a lot of these games have close spreads for a reason. All right, so let's turn the page on the first chapter here over to the second one, Coach, and we're going to show off a little bit of that versatility that you're always talking about. Matters, not just in fantasy, but life. We're going to get to the MB Fantasy Life. This one is the shootout. Okay, so this one is also best ball, but this one is structured a bit differently. You can only choose 2 players from each team to fill out a roster. And again, this one is a little bit different because this one is, if I'm not mistaken, it's 2 QBs, 2 running backs, 2 pass catchers, 2 flex, 1 kicker, 1 defense, which it definitely is going to throw a little bit of a wrinkle into it. What are your thoughts as pertains to the 2-player max? Because I think, right, that being the true differentiator, I think that's probably where we want to start, how we're going to kind of pull. At least this time we're not under the clock, by the way.
Well, yeah, and I think the interesting part about the 2-player max is that it keeps you from your strategy, right? It keeps you from the strategy you just tried to employ in the other league. Like you can't just say, "Hey, I think that the Rams are going to make a run to the Super Bowl, so I'm going to take all the Rams." Now you've got to be selective about which Rams you want to take to the Super Bowl with you. And I think when you get that, it becomes a quarterback and somebody else, right? Because that's really what we're talking about here. But it gives you the opportunity to say, "Hey, who do I want with my quarterback? Do I want Kyron Williams with my quarterback, or do I want with Matthew Stafford, or do I want Puka Nacua with Matthew Stafford?" Because you can't take both of them, right? If I think that Devontae Adams is coming back healthy, is it worth it to take Puka Nacua and his catching and his receptions volume, or is it smart to take Devontae Adams and the ridiculous cheat code he's been anytime you're near the 5-yard line this season with him getting into the end zone? These are all questions that someone's going to have to answer. But I think it makes it a little bit more, gives you a little bit more to think about when you're trying to set your team up, knowing that you only have 2 from that team to choose from.
Yep, use my favorite word, thinking. And that's what I particularly like about this contest structure. Unlike the draft before, where other people can get in the way and there's counterparty balance and stuff like that. I don't want to deal with other people. This is just us, and it's a puzzle, and it's very fair, right? Because no one has an edge on anyone else, and I kind of like to let these come to me. Now, I've had a few, I don't want to say epiphanies, but a few kind of building blocks that I've come up with, right? So I definitely want to be drafting in pairs. That's something that you mentioned. I would not be splitting teams because, again, the goal should be to advance as many players as possible. I've also split between AFC and NFC teams evenly, and I haven't played anybody that's going to oppose each other in the first round. So none of this, I think, is 8D chess necessarily, but you'll find it's very, 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 very tempting, right? 4 or 5 varies at least, to put just all the best players, because this contest does not have any salary-driven component. You don't have to steal from Peter to pay Paul. You don't have to square pegs and round holes. you could theoretically play, like, just to look at it right now, right? We could play Puka Nakua and Jackson Smith and Jigba and, Devonta Adams and Nico Collins and just all these guys is incredible, right? And Josh Allen and Drake May, and Travion Williams and Christian McCaffrey. So it just like goes on and on with all the best players, but a lot of them are going to clash, eliminate each other, and not make it to the end. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Or are there any pairs in particular that you think maybe people should be focusing on?
Well, I think the part that you have to consider is those two quarterback positions have to be married with two guys that are on their team. I think that both of those quarterbacks, one has to be an AFC, one has to be an NFC. You've got to give yourself the best opportunity to get to the end. Um, which means that you might see, oh my gosh, um Trevor Lawrence has been playing out of his mind. He might be the QB1 going into the playoffs, right? With the way that he's been playing. But Drake May's been balling out too. But you can't put them both together, right? You can't put them both together. And so now you don't even get the luxury of putting the two quarterbacks that you want together, because if you do, you better be 1,000% sure that you're one of those guys are getting to the Super Bowl, or else you're not going to have any representation, by the time you're there. So I think what you said is very poignant. I don't know if I could be as disciplined as to not have anybody face anyone in the first round, because I think that there might be some value in almost kind of sacrificing like somebody in that first, in the wild card round, because of what they could give you. But I do believe trying to get as many bodies as possible to the end is going to be the recipe for success.
Yeah, with these low totals and close spreads, it's anybody's game. I would even say, to your point, there's a decent point to be made. If you have really explosive players facing each other, at least you know you're getting one through. The other side, right, that no one ever likes to address, as I'm here, kind of on my soapbox. Oh, you got to do this, do this, do this. If those teams lose, like, I'm out. On the first
Yeah.
day, I'm out.
Yep.
You're out. And you're essentially drawing dead to somebody that guessed it correctly. Back to what I was saying at the opening about planting flags. So there's a lot of different ways to go in this one. Before we move on, because we want to get to some Guillotini stuff also, I'm just curious if you have any takes about the special teams. Now, my one take on the special teams here, Coach, was that, if anything, I think it eliminates, like, the need to try and be unique, right? Something that we hear a lot about in overall contest, and I don't want to say small field, like large field, small option contest, right? Where you kind of need to be precise. I think the way that defense and kicker gets played here is going to make this so random that you should plant your flag and kind of go for it. My gut was maybe the bye teams, right? Like Denver, I don't love, so maybe because bye teams have a higher probability of making the Super Bowl, don't look at me, just ask the sports books. Maybe that's a good spot for kicker and defense. You can notice by the inflection of my voice, I don't feel very strongly about it. Do you have any takes on the special team stuff?
See, and I wouldn't necessarily be averse to the buy teams, because again, you want to try to get the team to the final. But I really do think that there's some of these teams that just operate as a weapon. And like how many people are going to go with the Houston defense, because the Houston defense has a chance to just win a game by themselves, right? Like they could turn the ball over enough, they can cause enough havoc to where their defense and special teams can get it done for them. And even if you don't love anybody offensively for Houston, they continue to move on. Your defense and special teams continue to move on. Like Houston at Pittsburgh, I can't be like, oh well, that I feel like that Houston defense is getting at least two games, right? And so if I feel like that defense is going to get at least 2 games, watching watching as Aaron Rodgers tried to navigate what was one of the worst Ravens defenses that I've seen, and having so much trouble with him until he didn't. I don't see that being the case versus this Houston defense. So I think that defense and special teams could have a huge day. And if so, I get another game with them. And now in the second round, it's roll the dice, baby. It's anybody's money at that point.
You know what? Let's build one. Let's start with exactly that piece. Let me put you on the spot for one more because I'm curious what you think because I've put a little thought into this. All right, we love the Texans. We think we're getting 2 games. If we want a second Texan, the most explosive player's got to be Nico Collins. Are you okay rolling with a wide receiver with that defense, try and maximize our Texans?
I think if you're trying to maximize your Texans, that's a way to do it. And because you have the option between a wide receiver and a tight end, you don't have to take a tight end. And you can fill those flex spots. I think you actually cover yourself by being able to do that, because now I can have a Nico Collins along with 2 other wide receivers that I think have a chance to go further, and that gives me, that balance. But really, I'm really here for the defense. Let's make no mistakes about it.
Okay, how about on the center? Who do you like on the center?
As far as
I want to build something for the followers, for the listeners here.
Yeah. Now, I think this is great. I think I'm still rolling with Jalen Hurts. I think that defense against a San Francisco offense that's shown that it's not necessarily the most dominant offense unless they're all healthy at the same time. I think that Hurts can take that team to that Eagles team to the Super Bowl. There's no dominant NFC team, right? There's nobody that I go, they're definitely making it, right? And so I like Hurts going, and then I'm gonna go back to my point of the AFC has to have a representative for me, right? And so if I'm doing that, to me it comes down to who do I like coming out of this Jacksonville versus Buffalo game. And I think that if Trevor Lawrence gets it done versus Buffalo, they're so hot right now, they could literally make a beeline straight to the championship.
Okay, let's go. I like that. Well, let's go Lawrence. He's shown the ability and the willingness to kind of run in the red zone, which maybe it makes him an interesting pick for a pairing. You did draft Myers, who I really like. I don't know if anybody really, really sticks as an auto pair. Let's keep Myers tabled. You know what, Matt? Why don't you put Jacoby? Because I think I mentioned being committed, and I think that makes a lot of sense. That if we're drafting as if Trevor Lawrence is making the run, I think it's definitely Myers. The way he's meshed into this offense, he looks like they've been playing together for years. And his willingness to go over the middle, this is Jacoby Myers, in that Liam Coleman system has just been a huge upgrade. I think that's been the difference maker. I don't know if Brian Thomas ever kind of reclaims that. All right, so anyway, let's do the backfield stuff. So we're talking about deep runs. Man, hard to say no to James Cook. Right, maybe we'll go James Cook. And maybe he could stand alone. Unless maybe Buffalo is a good pair for that kicker, right? A spot where we're kind of iffy. Buffalo could make a run. We've seen them get away from the pass. We've mentioned the pass catchers being weak. Maybe the Buffalo kicker is a nice fit to go with Cook, right? Always kind of thinking forward. Maybe one of those teams go deep. Man, the other way, I don't know. Do you want to get how about the flex spots? You want to get us some NFC flex spots?
Yeah, who are we trying to couple with Jalen Hurts here, right? Are we coupling AJ Brown with Jalen Hurts? Does that just seem to be the natural pairing there?
Yeah, I think, man, it's funny. Jalen Hurts is so good. You mentioned before, he beat you in so many different ways. He doesn't necessarily need a certain guy, but I think we've seen the most explosive version be the AJ Brown.
The AJ Brown version.
Yeah, that over-the-top cover one attack. Let's go with that. I love the thinking. Man, I'm I had another mental lapse because I mentioned Buffalo to oppose your Jacksonville. I know a guy like Cook could get the big score anyway. I didn't mean to. I, of course, crossed them up. And I wonder if, Matt, if you wouldn't mind, could we swap those to the Chargers, the Bills that I mentioned? Because I would rather go Hampton and the Chargers kicker than the Bills. I crossed the matchups. We're looking at staring at these brackets for so long that I got confused. But to me, that plays a little bit better into building into your theory, which is what I was trying to build. Man, I love that flex play from Brown. Now we just have a spot. I don't know, Coach, is there a running back flex pairing anywhere on the board that maybe we keep on the same team that you think could make a run that might shock everybody even? Doesn't have to be a total shock, but just could be anybody.
I mean, if you look at what we've got right now, I think we're pretty balanced AFC, NFC, right?
Looking good.
But if you're talking about who the best running back in the playoffs is, I mean, it's Christian McCaffrey.
I've overlooked the Niners, man.
It's Christian McCaffrey. So I'm thinking about like a Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle.
Yes.
Like, like pairing together. Because I'm not heavy on the tight ends right now. Like, because to me, the tight ends that can get you the big numbers, they're not in the playoffs, except George Kittle. Like George Kittle in the playoffs could be 2 touchdowns and 85 yards in a loss, right? Like he could do that. But also, if the 49ers are going to make a run, guess who is going to be on the back? It's going to be the back of CMC and George Kittle. And so I think those two guys coupled together gives you an offshoot pairing that you might lose in the first round. In the wild card because they're playing against the Philly. But again, like I was talking about earlier, I think sometimes somebody's got to get pitched off, right? Somebody's got to get clipped in order for everyone else to continue to thrive. And if those guys give you a fantastic day and then lose, at least you got the fantastic day out of them.
Yeah, I think the self-immolation is right. It's inevitable. It's part of the game. One thing we haven't mentioned, that if you're going to do that, I think San Francisco is a unique spot. What we saw from them down the stretch of this, I mean, they were a fantasy player's dream because it's the fully healthy, high-powered Shanahan, Purdy, McCaffrey offense with, I don't want to call them a bad defense, Coach. Nobody could lose that much talent and stay relevant. You can't lose Warner and Bosa along with other pieces. It's just not gonna happen. But they turned into that carnival team where, man, I forget the exact number, but I wrote about it for Barry maybe a week or two ago, where going back to maybe week 5 or week 6 after Dallas improved a little bit, we're talking a combined 60-point total across. They were leading the league. So if you're going to be in a game where a couple of you guys are going to get knocked out, go for the one where it could turn into that absolute circus. This team looks really, really good. I feel like I'm going to be looking up at you on the leaderboard with this one. So I guess now we could turn the page to this second chapter. We're in the green zone. Let's score the rock, Coach, right? We're really batters. You mentioned Guillotini's. I haven't launched my own. I'm planning a series of these. If anybody sees this, you follow my Twitter handle. It's right down there. It's my name. I'm going to post about them. I'll come up with a giveaway and stuff now. Guillotini's are a spinoff of the Guillotine formats that we host at guillotineleagues.com. They're a lot of fun. I don't want to get too far into the weeds with these, but I always like that. I think it counters the biggest problem with fantasy football, which is all the injuries and the lack of interest on the waiver wire. And this is the opposite because the lowest score gets eliminated and the pool gets refreshed. And that playing into strength, again, it's just the inverse of what we're used to. So I think that format is becoming very popular. I've had a few people that were really kind of ardent season-long boomer types that really like it for that reason. Come week 6 and week 7, the interest is getting higher, where in other leagues, and it's just part of the game, people that are 0-7 or lost or have family stuff, people kind of check out. So get on the Guillotini formats. Now, there are 2 types. I did my best to try and remember this stuff. You could play a single chop. So this is all playoff driven. It's 5 players. the lowest score gets chopped each round, which would leave one round at the end. Or you could play a double chop, which again I like because double the stakes, where it's 8 players, where 2 get chopped, which leave 2 at the end, and a single standalone winner take all. This, however, has a draft similar to the blitz format that we opened with, except, right, we talked about format and its importance in execution. There are, of course, waiver moves. As teams get chopped, those players will get added to the pool, and there's bidding, which is a lot of fun because it makes it unique. That's not found in any of the other formats. So I have not started drafting yet. Again, that kind of starts tonight. My playoff schedule is a bit jammed. The dance card gets full, but that's never a bad thing. So, and more than enough out of me. Coach, when it comes to the Guillotini, I hate being too declarative, but when it comes to the buy players, because they will be available, what's your kind of macro approach to it? I think people would want to hear that first.
Well, first off, people have to remember, like, this is of the utmost importance. There is no bench. You only have your starters. So if you draft somebody who is on a bye, you have a spot that is going to take a 0. And we were and it's funny because Laghezza, you and I were talking about this before we came on air. In a single chop league, you might take the risk. In a double chop league, absolutely not. But for me, I'll just tell you, for me and my ministry, never. I'm never taking a player that's going to get me a 0, like, guaranteed. Not when it's a win or go, it's a stay above the line or go home type of situation. I'm always going to choose 3 points over 0 points, right? Like, I'm always going to choose more points over no points. And so that to me opens up an extremely interesting week 2 of your Guillotini if you are fortunate enough to make it, because now don't be afraid to spend that fab if there's somebody out there that you believe can win you the entire thing. Like, if you really and truly believe that Seattle's about to make a run to the championship, then why would you not spend a heavy amount of fab on JSN? Why would you not spend a heavy amount of fab on Kenneth Walker if you believe in Kenneth Walker, right? Like you have to think about it from the standpoint of, I'm about to get 3 games of service out of this person because I believe that team is going to the championship. And not for nothing, by the time you get to, if you're able to make it another week or 2, you might be able to get some really good players for not a lot of fab because there's nobody left, and somebody else may have already, spent their allotted amount of money. So I think that matters when you're thinking about these bye week teams. Leave them alone in week 1. Act like they don't even exist. And then in week 2, when you're hitting your reset, go all in if you think there's a player out there that can get you home to the money.
Yeah, I have to agree 100%. It's not to say too conservative or too scared. The point of the league is to not score the least, inviting actual zeros, like known zeros, when you have a chance to reacquire. I don't want to say, I don't know if it's arrogant. It seems a little bit misplaced because you'll have that chance. And my gut feeling, and I can't see into the future, but my gut feeling, Coach, is there's going to be a ton of Seahawks available on that first kind of round. So it's 8 rounds, the draft, and like you said, everybody has to start. Now, especially, like you said, in the single chop leagues, these are all really relevant players. I would even say, even into the double chop, these are relevant players that are going to be, they're focal parts of offenses. They're going to score points. I wouldn't just look past, it's funny, you said 3. I was thinking more like floor player, maybe 5 or 6 points. How could you look past that? There's an excellent chance that is the difference between the 2 last place teams. 5 or 6 points, very likely makes the difference. So I guess to that point, I think maybe then in this format, we get to be, I don't mean to say cavalier, but we do get to focus more on the players that can and will get eliminated in the first round. You mentioned a few, so let's bring the conversation home with that because I think that's what makes this format unique is which of the first round players that we're expecting to lose do you think we want to buy into and maybe are going to get overlooked? Well, I think, Coach, I think that's a fact. If someone's drafting JSN, they're overlooking some Steeler, right?
Yeah, like you're overlooking a Steeler, which is crazy to me because you're gonna take a zero. Like for instance, I don't feel the greatest about the Bills this year, if I'm being honest. Like I think the Bills are going home in the first round. I would have zero problems taking Josh Allen as my quarterback because at the end of the day, he's going to, in a loss, they're going to go out with him on his shield. Like he's going to go down shooting. You're not going to beat him and he's going to end up with 12 points in order to go home, right? He'll put some late garbage touchdowns on the board. They're going to try to make it as good as they can, look as good as they can in the loss for Josh Allen. I'll take that chance, right? I'll take that chance. And then if next week I'm out here without a quarterback because he's no longer there, I'm going to turn my attention to Sam Darnold, or I'm going to turn my attention to Bo Nix, and I'm going to put all of the fab that I can into making sure I get one of those two on my on my roster, and then I'm just going to do the same thing next week if for some reason one of those guys go home.
Yeah, you actually drafted maybe both of the first two players that come to my mind when I think of players that I really like that I think are talented or focal points of their own respective offenses, but I worry about if we're taking the 30,000-foot view would be Tedero and McMillan. He had a fantastic rookie season. Unfortunately, I think he's going to beat my guy Tyler Shuck out for it, but they were both fantastic. By all intents and purposes, he's the player on that offense, but in a format where you get punished for losing in the first round, he obviously comes down. He could and maybe should be prioritized. We're expecting him to be a double-digit underdog. Is he not going to get 11 targets? Most likely. So he should get prioritized. You mentioned Kenneth Gainwell. I actually think Pittsburgh is going to get killed. That's amazing. He's the best case scenario. I'll even go further. I was thinking, man, I'd rather have Pat Fryermuth, than JSN in the opening week because if Pittsburgh is getting destroyed and they start to face preventative defenses, Rodgers has no problem. Just check, 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 check. You could see Fryermuth and Gainwell each get 8 catches and combined for 70 yards combined, and that moves the needle in fantasy. Those will be very late picks for you, allowing you to prioritize elsewhere. And then again, you kind of reassess your situation. You never know what quarterback is going to get eliminated, and you kind of go from there. So I think I like a lot of where you come from because you're very open minded, and I think that allows some of the game to come to you. I may have stolen you guys because I kind of pulled them off your draft board. Before we get out of here, because we are approaching the hour mark, Coach, are there any of those players? Are there any players that you like that we haven't mentioned? That you think maybe could be undersung in this format?
I think that we haven't talked at all really about the Houston Texans, and I think Dalton Schultz is a guy who might be low key one of those dudes that you want to look for if you're talking about tight end because you need one, right? Like if you're talking about a guy and you don't want to spend heavy early in your draft on the tight end, Dalton Schultz is a guy you might be looking at on the back end to come in and do your work, especially if you got 8 teams, in your Guillotini. I don't think he's getting enough love, and I haven't heard a lot of people say Christian Watson's name, which to me signals that they're not quite as confident that Green Bay is going to be moving on. But if this becomes Green Bay having to throw the ball to survive, he's going to throw the ball to Christian Watson. And Christian Watson has looked darn good this year while they were throwing in the ball. So a couple names that I haven't heard a lot of people say that have potential to go home in round one, but in Dalton Schultz case, I think that's less of a thing. I think Houston gets it done, but you got to throw the ball to someone when you're not throwing the ball to Nico Collins. We've seen Dalton Schultz come along, and then I really do think Christian Watson's a guy who has come along nicely and has been a surprise since returning from that ACL injury.
Yeah, that is really the call outs, and a great way to wrap up the show, because you got to think of it as, but the way the question was posed is, Coach, hey, if I were to ask you what wide receiver ended with this line, who went 3 for 127 and 2 in a losing effort? Christian Watson is one of those guys that can get behind the defense and break it down. We've seen it with the double post and then love back. I absolutely love that call. The Schultz one is even better. And again, I guess that's what friends are for. You were there to pick me up all show, because one of the rule things I miss with Guillotini is it's a tight end specific. You called it out. I forgot it, but that's very, very, very important. And in that case, Schultz is a smash pick. We both think Texans are going to get at least one game. He's the second option.
Yep, for sure.
Not many tight ends can go 77 and 1. He's done it a few times this year. He's a part of the offense. So with that, Gene, we're going to get out of here. But do you have any closing thoughts and stuff? I hate to cut you off. Go for it.
Shout out to our producer Matt LaMarca, making this thing happen. Also for calling me out on not taking a tight end in our thing when I didn't have to take a tight end because they were wide receivers. Hey, shuck on you, Holly. But also, if you want to play, I'm probably going to have 2 fan-specific Guillotinis to get in. So if you want to play in one of my Guillotinis, just go to my X at Gene Clemons. You'll see it posted up there. Go jump in with me. If you think that what I'm saying is crazy, come prove it. I'd love to see you. We'll talk soon.
Oh, absolutely love that. So from Big Johnny Stud and Coach Gene Clemons and everybody here at NB Fantasy Life, Happy New Year. And we'll see you in the Guillotini lobbies, man. Hit us up. We're looking to play, all right? Take care, everybody.